Notion generated a 240% user growth rate in huge part because of a kind of clever three-part framework that they use to turn users into evangelists. And in this video, I'm going to reverse engineer this framework, as well as sharing the one psychological hack that made Notion's templates really go viral. And I'm also going to share why their 31% churn rate is actually kind of genius. Now, if you're new around here, my name is Jono, and I help companies turn their users into die-hard believers who will rave, recruit, and rally around your products. And Notion is a pretty interesting story. You see, as of 2024, they had about 100 million users, up from 1 million in 2019. That's not just growth, that's kind of exponential madness. They hit $300 million in revenue with 4 million paying customers and a $10 billion valuation. But here's what's absolutely crazy about all of this, is that in 2015, Notion was almost dead. You see, they'd burned through their funding, they had a buggy product that crashed constantly, and were this close to shutting down. Ivan Zhao had to borrow money from his mum just to keep the lights on. Now, most SaaS companies at this stage would have just thrown money at Facebook ads and prayed for the best. But Notion couldn't afford that luxury, which turned out to be their greatest advantage. Now, the traditional SaaS playbook is utterly backwards when it comes to building movements. You optimize conversion funnels, you buy expensive keywords, you hire armies of sales development reps. But this creates mercenary customers, not missionaries. And Notion realized something pretty profound. Your product has to make people want to tell their mates about it. So here's where it gets interesting, and this is where most founders would have made the wrong call entirely. After rebuilding their product 4 times, Notion discovered that their most passionate users weren't just using the product, they were creating things with it and sharing those creations elsewhere. Templates, tutorials, entire businesses built around Notion workflows. Now, most companies would have seen this and thought, brilliant, let's monetize this immediately. Take a cut out of template sales, charge for premium tutorials, lock down the sharing features behind paywalls. Pure madness. Instead, Notion did something completely counterintuitive. They made sharing even easier and never took a penny for it. What they built was a 3-part framework, and let's break it down part by part. Now, the first part of their framework is where Notion's genius becomes pretty apparent. They created what I call a template viral loop, and it's bloody brilliant in its simplicity. Every time someone creates a useful workspace in Notion, they can share it as a template with one click. These templates spread across X, Reddit, YouTube, Discord groups, just like wildfire. But here's the psychological trigger that most people miss. Templates aren't just sharing the tool, they're sharing a specific solution to a specific problem. You see, when somebody shares the ultimate student dashboard template, they're not just saying, use Notion. They're saying, here's how I solve my productivity crisis, and you can copy my exact system. That's infinitely more compelling than any advertisement. And the data backs this up magnificently. Notion's template gallery now has tens of thousands of community-created templates. Each template acts as a mini case study, showing potential users exactly how Notion can solve their specific problem. It's like having thousands of salespeople working for free, except they're not just selling, they're actually genuinely helping. Now, the second part of their framework is what happens inside of teams. You see, most productivity tools are individual experiences. You use Todoist alone, you use Evernote alone. But Notion is designed for collaboration from the ground up. When somebody creates a project workspace and invites their team, every single member becomes a potential new user. But it's more devious than simple sharing because Notion workspaces are so customizable and powerful that teams start building their entire workflows around them. Meeting notes, project tracking, knowledge bases, everything lives in Notion. And this creates what's called switching costs. Once a team has invested hundreds of hours building their perfect Notion setup, they don't move into another tool anytime soon. And here is the multiplication effect, because when someone leaves that company, what's the first thing they're going to do in their new job? They try to create their amazing Notion setup. Suddenly, one user becomes the evangelist for an entirely new organization. But then there's the third part of their framework, and this is where it gets properly sophisticated. You see, most companies try to control their communities. They create official forums, hire community managers, moderate discussions. Notion did the opposite. They let thousands of communities spring up organically across Reddit, Discord, YouTube, X, even Etsy stores selling Notion templates. The Notion subreddit, for example, has got 415,000 members. That's 415,000 people voluntarily joining a community to discuss productivity software. Just think about how fucking crazy that is. When did you last see 415,000 people excited to talk about Excel? But Notion didn't just observe this community growth, they amplified it strategically. They created the Notion Ambassador Program, giving their most passionate users early access to features, funding for events, and official recognition. These ambassadors started creating courses, tutorials, consulting businesses. It's amazing. Now, if you're building any kind of developer tool or technical product, this is where my company, StateShift, can become invaluable. You see, we specialize in helping tech startups systematically build these kinds of authentic ecosystems, rather than just relying on traditional marketing tactics that feel kind of forced and expensive. You can find out more by checking out the link down there. So what are the results of this three-part system that Notion put in place? Well, the numbers are absolutely staggering. As I said earlier on, Notion achieved a 240% user growth rate while spending minimal amounts of money on paid acquisition compared to their competitors. While Monday.com spent over twice as much on digital advertising, Notion's $7 million total marketing budget in 2022 generated far superior growth rates. Their word-of-mouth coefficient, which measures how many new users each active user generates, consistently outperforms industry benchmarks. But here's what's absolutely brilliant. Their 31% annual churn rate is actually kind of working in their favor. It might sound a little high until you realize that many of those churning users are actually individuals who've moved to companies who then adopt Notion team-wide. They're not losing customers, they're actually upgrading them. And this viral coefficient of their template sharing alone generates millions of new impressions monthly. Every shared template is essentially a branded case study that costs Notion absolutely nothing to produce and distribute. Now, before I ask you to smash that like button, because honestly, likes and subscribes really genuinely help small channels like mine survive in YouTube's algorithm madness, let me give you the three-part framework you can steal immediately and apply in your world. Firstly, build shareable artifacts into your product. Not just sharing features, but things users create that become valuable to other users. Templates, configurations, workflows, whatever makes sense for your product. Make sharing these artifacts ridiculously easy and never monetize them directly. Secondly, design for collaborative viral loops. If your product improves when more people use it together, you've built virality into the core experience. Every new user invitation becomes a product demonstration. And thirdly, nurture community ecosystems without controlling them. Give your most passionate users reasons to create content, host events, build businesses around your product. Your job isn't to own these communities, but to fuel them. But throughout all of this is the brutal truth. Most founders are so obsessed with growth hacking and paid acquisition that they completely ignore the most powerful growth lever available to them, their actual users. Notion proved that when you build something people genuinely love and couple it with minimal strategic marketing spend, they'll do most of your marketing for you, not because you ask them to, but because they can't help themselves. Now, if you want more frameworks like this for building movements instead of just marketing campaigns, make sure you go and subscribe to the channel. But now I want you to go and watch a video that I think you'll find super helpful. You see, if you go watch this video next, you can check out a keynote I recently did at a conference about how to implement the hardest part of Notion's framework, building a thriving community. And in this keynote, I walk through the 3 critical ingredients that most people screw up when building a community. So go check out that video, and I'll see you there.